Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our webinar, Mastering Operational Risk, Theory and Practice in a Single Package. I really appreciate your time and am very excited to conduct this webinar together with Calvin Lee, Operations Director from RISKID. If you are attending right now, it means that you are investing in yourself, and it's very important. We are definitely going to have a packed house today. My name is Boris Agranovich. I'm a founder of GlobalRiskCommunity, the world's premier online risk forum with more than 22,000 registered members. I'm also a founder of Global Risk Academy, the world's first crowdsourced educational platform for risk managers. I'm based in the Netherlands, married and have 3 kids, and am passionate about traveling and most of all online teaching and community building. Today's co-speaker is Calvin Lee, Operations Director and founder at RISKID. Calvin is the co-founder of RISKID, which is one of the fastest growing and most successful risk management tool supplier in the Netherlands and is currently in the process of global expansion. Calvin, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Boris. I would also like to thank all of you for tuning in today. Before I start introducing myself, I will say after the speech from Boris, I will show you in 15 minutes how risk management process can be done from start to finish, supported by a very simple and practical tool. I will even dive into the tool itself, so stay tuned. Something about myself: I'm the co-founder of RISKID, which is a risk management software company in the Netherlands. We provide our software in various industries, from the financial sector into the hospitals, but also infrastructure companies. And I've also co-written some articles about how you should do collaborative risk management instead of traditional risk management. We're going towards that move. And I've also done myself over 50 risk assessment workshops with our software and helping clients to raise their risk awareness. And I'll show you later on how it exactly works within RISKID.
Thank you very much, Calvin. Thank you. Now, please, I will discuss housekeeping and communication. Before we start, I would like to tell you a few words about what we're going to do today. Please shut down the distractions like your Facebook, emails, your messaging app, and concentrate on this workshop. We have approximately 1 hour ahead of us, with the presentation taking about 40-45 minutes, followed up by a Q&A session. The first half of the webinar is presented by me, and the second part is presented by Calvin. You can place your questions anytime during the webinar, and it will be answered at the end. For those who stay till the end, we will present a special offer which is unique in the industry and available only for the webinar attendees. For those who wanted to share on the social media, please use hashtag ORM webinar. First of all, let me tell you a short story about Global Risk Community, Global Risk Academy, and why we are doing this for more than 7 years now. I started Global Risk Community in 2010, after many years working as a consultant in risk management. My main frustration at that time was the fact that it was very difficult to connect with colleagues and peers in the different parts of the world to discuss common issues. Of course, there are different conferences and events, but a normal person goes perhaps only once per year to such event, and the rest of the time there is no reliable forum and online meeting point where people can get resources, trainings, jobs, discuss different tools. With this idea in mind, I created the site, and it steadily grew to what it is now, with more than 22,000 registered members, 70,000 getting our newsletters, and the entire ecosystem for a risk manager has been brought under one roof, including events, resources, tools, courses, forum, and more. In 2015, I created Global Risk Academy, the world's first crowdsourced online school for risk managers, which now has more than 1,000 students and 24 courses and counting, developed by our members for our members. One of the most popular courses has been Mastering Operational Risk. Training is an important element in keeping your team competitive and relevant. But how do you know which learning option is best? Classroom-based training has been the status quo for some time, yet the learning environment and the rapid pace of technology are disrupting the way we think about training. Think about online learning. On-demand learning offers significant advantages that address the concerns associated with the classroom or seminar models. Besides, online courses are much more cheaper compared to their classroom counterparts, what makes them more accessible for students from, for example, developing countries. All these advantages are the reasons why risk IT and business professionals tend to enroll in online courses in recent years. So if you need to learn a new skill, you can do it now much cheaply and at the same time communicating with both of the students and the trainer. Now I would like to start with a short results of our votes from our polls from our members, members of Global Risk Community. What are your most challenges for 2017? And from the recent poll, the 35% of operational risk managers cited that cyber risk is most biggest issue. 21% is effective risk assessment practices, 20% regulatory affairs, 12% both integrating operational risk reporting systems and outsources. Here, some example from Ernst & Young research. What are the relative priorities for risk management in terms of time spent? According to this chart, regulatory affairs takes about 11%, risk monitoring takes 10.5%, risk reporting takes 9.8%, policies and procedures takes 9.4%, and mandate risk governance 9.1%. These are the largest priority activities that operational risks are busy with regards to time spent. My promise to you today is that by the end of this webinar, you will have more clarity on how to run your operational risk management tasks. We will discuss the following points. 3 things most organizations are focusing on right now. What are the major steps to take control of operational risk? Calvin Lee will explain how to use collaborative risk management tools to conduct your ORM operations and why traditional risk management practices involving risk registers and Excel are not effective anymore. That is our promise to you during this webinar. Our job is to deliver on this promise today, and by the end I will tell you about our training program that gives you both practical and theoretical tools on how to run your operational risk management tasks. But regardless of if you take me up on that or not, I hope that you will find tremendous value from this webinar. Now, let's get started. In our audience, we have both experienced practitioners and the beginners. For the latter group, I would like to say a few words. What is the ORM? Operational risks relate to areas such as integrity and fraud, crime prevention, human resources management, information and communications technology, business continuity management, physical security, and outsourcing. The ORM team performs analysis on operational risks and monitors operational risk losses and capital. Operational risk is perhaps the most significant risk organizations face. Virtually every major loss that has taken place during the past 30 years, from Enron, WorldCom, Barings Bank, to the unauthorized trading incidents at Societe Generale and the subprime credit crisis, has been driven by operational failures. Many financial institutions have spent millions of dollars trying to develop a robust framework for measuring and managing operational risk. Yet, in spite of this huge investment, for many firms, developing a viable operational risk management program remains an elusive goal. As you can see from this slide, operational risk can trigger losses in credit default, trading, loss of customers, and many more activities. Operational risk management as a function is at the crossroads. On the one hand, you have this heightened risk profile, or the perception that financial institutions around feel the pressure on that side. And at the same time, regulators are heightening their expectations in terms of the processes to have in place, the governance, the data, and they are supposed to be governing, and just the overall efficiency of the risk management process. That translates to a lot of pressure on the operational risk function and on the process itself to be more efficient, to help prevent or at least detect in advance the next big operational risk event, to do more with less, to help institutions really meet their regulatory obligations and their deadlines. When you put those things together, it becomes very clear that the recipe that we have used in the past has been to throw more resources at this type of problems, and it may not work this time. Where are your priorities right now? There are three types of things that most organizations, most financial institutions are focusing on right now. First of all, it's making that transition from a reactive to a proactive stance in terms of risk management. It is moving away from reacting to the latest operational risks. Organizations are no longer in a position to be constantly in crisis mode, so that is one big area. The second area is to strike the right balance between the first and the second line of defense, between the business, the revenue-producing side of the institution, and the oversight of that institution. Thirdly, in order for operational risk function to be really effective in this new environment, we have to ask ourselves the question, do we have the right capabilities in terms of data, in terms of supporting systems, in terms of processes that we execute from a risk management perspective, and sometimes in terms of talent and education? Here are two examples of projects that institutions can and should probably start thinking about today, if they are not already working on them. First of all, transforming risk and control assessments, taking a new look at why we are doing these risk and control assessments, and more importantly, how we are actually executing them right. There is lots of good work happening in the industry right now and around new approaches to risk and control assessments, and Calvin Lee will elaborate on this further in the second part of this webinar. The second type of the project that institutions are working on has to do with risk aggregation and reporting. It is creating both the data structure that enables that and the infrastructure that support that. It's not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of consensus building and data model building. Ultimately, that is the price for being able to construct an integrated view of risks and exposures, and for having actionable management reporting. What are the major steps to take to control of operational risks? As a risk manager, one of the risks you need to consider is uncertainty within your own organization. Institutional or operational risks are many. Employee wrongdoing, computer errors, attacks, physical or cyber, for example, and too numerous to list. And there is no one-size-fits-all approach to operational risk. However, by taking these 6 steps, you will have more control of operational risk of your business. First, evaluate the types of risk you are exposed to and assess your risk tolerance, and then perform a top-down analysis to determine where to focus your program. Essential outputs of this program should be KRIs, KPIs, and a thorough understanding of where your organization wants to concentrate its efforts. With limited scope for automating this process, you need to invest in time and resources to perform a proper evaluation. Second, establish a formalized process for assessing inherent operational risk and the appropriateness of mitigating controls. The operational risk assessments made as part of the change management process should generally be performed by the first line of defense. This risk assessment process may consider inherent risk in the new product, service, or activity, changes to the compliances regarding operational risk profile and risk appetite, the required set of controls, risk management processes, and risk mitigation strategies to be implemented, the residual risk or unmitigated risk, and changes to the relevant risk limit or threshold. Perform scenario analysis. It is a process of identifying potential operational risk events and assessing their potential outcome and impact on company's operations. Scenario analysis can be an effective tool to consider potential sources of operational risk and the need for enhanced risk management controls or mitigation solutions. And very important is to avoid functional thinking. Premature identification or management approaches to handle local exposures can be a major problem in identifying risk management alternatives. For instance, risk managers trained in insurance tend to see the world as an insurable portfolio. Financial risk managers see it as a hedging problem. The risk analysts and managers must break free of functional constraints in their thinking. Avoiding functional thinking provides a neutral view of the relative advantages and disadvantages of risk prevention, mitigation, and control activities. Cybersecurity is an important aspect of controlling your operational risks. With heightened regulatory pressure, cybersecurity risk is high on the radars of most managers and investor minds. Many companies have implemented internal programs such as penetration and social engineering testing. In the last few years, as regulators increasingly look to protect the industry and stay ahead of cybersecurity threats, guidance on responding to risk has been released by FINRA, the SEC, and DVS, to name a few. Take a good control of outsourcing. Outsourcing becomes more and more frequent operational risk. Many companies are only worried about the top 10% of outsourced arrangements, the ones that they spend the most money on. That is not necessarily reflective of their risk profile. They may be spending millions with a global outsourcer, but it may be a small outsourcer with not very mature controls that is holding some key customer personal data where you suffer a loss. In many cases, outsourcing providers actually outsource to other organizations, so it becomes a massively complex ecosystem. Companies still have overall responsibility for ensuring that the data is controlled and secure. Companies need to know exactly where their customer data is held at all times and be able to present this data on demand in a portable format. That will require a thorough understanding of a complex web of relationships with various outsourcers. The last but not least The recent political developments like the election of Donald Trump as the United States President along with the UK's vote to withdraw from the European Union have combined to push geopolitical risk in the top 7 this year. The biggest remaining risk results from our rapidly changing world order and its implications for the financial sector and the trading flows. Changing government trade policies, what President Trump is declaring and doing, is affecting many nations. No company can be sure that an investment or market entry into foreign countries that makes sense at the moment will not backfire in a couple of years. To ignore this reality and not think about possible scenarios might prove very costly for international branches in the upcoming years. This was my part of my presentation. Now I would like to pass the control to Calvin Lee. Please, Calvin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Boris. So my part will be talking about collaborative risk management, what it is and how you can do it. Let's start with ourselves, RISKID, short introduction. We are originally a technical startup about 8 years ago from Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. And we're basically a risk management software company based in the Netherlands, and we have an office in China as well. In the Netherlands, we are the fastest growing risk management tool provider. And starting this year, we also expanding abroad, starting from Germany, Belgium, and Malaysia and China, and other countries to come. Our philosophy is also to connect with universities with their knowledge on risk management. So we have development collaborations with universities in Netherlands, Belgium, England, Germany, and Malaysia. And our mission is simple. We want to make easy and practical risk management software. We want to reject overcomplicated software once and for all. So let me talk about the transition between from traditional risk management towards collaborative risk management to give you an explanation. This is a timeline. The world behaves according to the universal laws like the gravitation law, etc. It's a view that corresponds with the traditional risk management models. We all have the same image of the world, an objective view. Whereas if you look at the world now, it's highly unpredictable. In the questions already, a lot of people raising the things like Trump being elected, unpredictable events. Fukushima is also mentioned in the questions. So all these things provides us a very subjective view of each individual on the same world. So we need to take that into mind doing risk management. So if we, from the left side is traditional risk management, we have some names in the risk management literature, which has Taleb with his black swans, and also Hubbard. Hubbard, in his book, Failure on Risk Management, he already exposes many flaws in traditional risk management methods based on risk calculations and models. It just didn't work. Look at the financial crisis, etc. And then further down the line, we have Wyke with managing the unexpected, that there's no 100% certainty, so don't calculate like that, or don't treat it as such that you can predict everything. And then also Kahneman, with his Nobel Prize winning book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he's talking about loss aversion. So basically it means that humans have a tendency to strongly prefer avoiding losses to acquiring gains. So most studies suggest that losses are twice as powerful psychologically as gains. To give you an example, if you are going to gamble and you lose $100, you feel twice as much pain as opposed to you winning $100. So that is already a very signature of human beings, and the same holds with risk. So we are quite not rational in that sense. So we're going to a collaborative risk management where the thing is that it's not about writing or putting down the perfect risk, but more about raising the risk awareness, getting all the stakeholders to communicate about the risk, getting them involved in the risk process, And that is what our software is trying to do to raise the risk awareness with a very simple and practical tool. I'll show that to you later. But first of all, how are we doing it now? I think many of you will recognize these methods or tools. The first one is brown paper sessions. You come together in a room. Getting the people agenda for one date and time is already very difficult. After that, you also have more dominant or figures in the session, and maybe they will get, oh, there's a risk on the table, instead of those maybe more shy people, but they also have a lot of knowledge. So in those kind of sessions, these issues arises. Also hierarchy, if your boss is in the room, you won't mention that maybe you think he is a risk. It won't happen. It won't happen. And also, with the human aspect, we are very problem solving. So when someone raises a risk, other people are already trying to solve it with measures, mitigation measures. But at the end of the road, you might be talking half an hour about a risk and measures on a very low risk. So that process is not really structured in that sense, because the human wants to go directly towards the measures, etc. And of course, we have a problem with reporting. You need to make a photo, etc. Going further, we have the well-known Excel list. So you send everybody an Excel to input every column, the risk, etc. It's just not really interactive. It's also very difficult for the risk management manager to consolidate them, very precise work, and it's quite boring. It's not really something people want to work on if they receive it from you in Excel. And the last one is interviews. You go talk to that person you want to try to get the risk from their text and speech. I think it's a very good method, but it takes a lot of time. And also, writing down transcript also could have some errors. And it's a one-on-one. Each time it's a one-on-one relationship, and then you missing again the integral view on the total risk. And if you look at today's technology, we're going quite far within the technologies. We have the Oculus Rift that can help 3D learning and stuff. We also have 3D printing. Already people in the medical sector printing prostheses, and also maybe you can even print free Michelin star dinners and stuff like that. We have the iWatch that's already passed over, but still quite interesting. We have robots doing our chores that we don't want to do, like cleaning our rooms, and also drones to maybe spy on people, but also we can make wonderful camera work on wildlife or combat forest fires. So these are happening already in the technology world we are living in. It's going very fast. If you look at the risk management tools, we're starting with Excel version 97, and then we upgraded to 2000, 2003. It just stays in these kind of tools, risk registering tools, and also major companies still using Excel as their main risk management tool. I think in this age, with these technological advancement, that is not okay anymore. So to summarize, reactions on traditional risk management and risk management methods is they're saying we're underusing the knowledge within the organization, because you cannot involve everyone, every stakeholder in those methods. Lack of integral view on the project, lack of communication about the identified risk, so it's not really interactive, it's not a group process. Lacking of personal touch. It takes a lot of time, and most of the time it's a snapshot. So you do that session, everybody may be hyped at that moment, but afterwards it just stays in your drawer. So it's in the end quite a boring process with the current methods. The problem is that 80% of the time spent on risk management process is spent on risk identification and assessment, and not on managing the risk, because then you left over 20% to actually do something about the risk. That is very problematic, because if you spend so much time as a risk manager on just identify the risk, it just leaves you too little time to do something about it. And also, research has shown that the current risk management tools are too focused on risk register and not on the collaborative process involving the stakeholders and raising the awareness on it. It's just simply not designed to do this at that way. I think effective risk management can only be achieved by raising risk awareness and with an integral approach. So the solution is actually to make everyone a risk manager, because if you look at the function name, risk manager, it's quite weird because you're not supposed to manage the risk. You're more a risk facilitator. You need to facilitate the process. And then the ownership should be placed back to the business. They are the risk owner. They need to do something about the risk and the measures. So I'm now going to show you a video how it works, such a process works in RISKID. The first step will be the risk identification.
Hey, guess what? You're invited to a RISKID brainstorm session. But what now? No worries. First, click on the link that you received in the invitation email. This link will take you directly to the RISKID login page. To log in, you simply type in your email address and then click on the login button. This will take you to the RISKID homepage. Click on the blue arrow on the bottom right to continue. You are now in the RISKID brainstorm session. At the top, you will find the brainstorm topic. You are now asked to add undesirable events in relation to the brainstorm topic. First, click on this button to add a risk. Once you have formulated a risk, you can add possible causes and effects. For example, what risks do you see for Project X? A possible risk may be building permissions and licenses are delayed. Cause, the way of construction is not in compliance with regulations. Effect, constructions will be delayed. In case you like to add more causes and effects, you press the add symbol. Effect, cost increase. Once you finish filling in your risk, press the button send. Your answer will now appear in the session. All risks that are added by you will be presented by an orange circle. Click on a previous answer to add the risks or to add extra causes and effects. On average, the brainstorm session will take you about 15 minutes to complete. You can simply log out once you finish adding risks. You can always log in later to add new risks.
So this is the first step in the RISKID software, where you don't need to come together yet when you want to identify or brainstorm about the risk, because it's an online tool where you can just give the audience, stakeholders, 1 or 2 weeks time to log into the system and brainstorm about the risk at their own time. And also, you also have a way that you can invite everyone. And the latest way is also simple. You can see in the screen. It's very simple to use by the participant, because you only have one button, so you cannot click wrong. And also, after you've clicked the button, you see a form where you need to fill in some risk, causes, and effects, and just press the button. And after this, you get a lot of risk from your stakeholders, which is good. And then you, of course, want to go to the next step. After you've organized all the risk, making them unique, you want to go to the scoring part. And that's this stuff.
You're invited to a RISKID scoring session. We can definitely use your knowledge and expertise. First, click on the link that you received in the invitation email. This link will take you directly to the RISKID login page. To log in, you simply type in your email address and then click on the login button. This will take you to the RISKID homepage. Click on the blue arrow on the bottom right to continue. You are now in the RISKID evaluation step. On the left side, you will find the risks and possible causes and effects. On the right side, you will see the evaluation bars. By simply dragging the orange and blue circles, you will score the risks on probability and impact. By clicking on an impact letter, you will find the scoring legends. It's up to you to use your knowledge and expertise to evaluate all risks one by one. First, you evaluate the probability for the risk to occur, and then you score the expected impact the risk may have. In case you don't have enough information or you don't want to socialize your opinion about a risk, you can simply skip this risk and evaluate the next one. Your score input is automatically saved during the process. You can always log in later to continue the evaluation. Once you are done evaluating all risks, you can click on the button Submit Vote. You are now done with the evaluation step in RISKID. On average, the evaluation step will take about 30 minutes to complete. You can simply log out once you are finished.
So this second step where you involve stakeholders is for them to score the risk on probability and impact. And here already a process of risk awareness, raising the risk awareness occurs, because you not only score your own risk, but also the risk of your colleagues. So you will need to read all the risk and you become aware of what risk do my colleagues see for this project or process, etc. In this sense, you can also give your opinion on each risk, why you scored this. And after this, because we are saying it's a collaborative process and doing every step online is not really interactive, the most important step in RISKID is the discussion of the risk after you get all the scoring votes from the participants. That step will be done now.
Hey, you have completed the brainstorm and evaluation steps. But what do we do with all this input? Well, guess what? You will have a group meeting with all your fellow participants. How exciting! This is the most important step in RISKID. During this meeting, you will discuss everyone's point of view and communicate about those risks that stand out. So how does this work? Don't worry, it's easy. Once again, you will receive an invitation email, but this time it will not contain a link to RISKID. Instead, it's an invitation to attend the discussion meeting. The facilitator will select a couple of risks that need to be discussed prior to this meeting. This selection is based on the level of disagreement amongst participants based on the outcome of the risk scoring step. RISKID identifies these risks with a red border. This is done by calculating the standard deviation. Basically, this means that the opinion amongst participants about certain risks lie too far apart and therefore need to be discussed. Click on a risk with a red border to open the risk detail view. In here, click on distribution. On the top right, you find the risk matrix that presents the spread amongst participants for the scoring outcome. During the meeting, participants will discuss and argue why they believe certain risks deserve a particular score. This way, everyone can discuss whether or not they agree with one another. This discussion can lead to a consensus and will raise risk awareness amongst all participants. That's why we advise to discuss as many risks as possible that are not in consensus.
Right. So when you come together after this scoring, you discuss only the risks that are not in consensus. So a large group says it's a low risk and another large group says it's a high risk. RISKID will show you with between brackets. Because if you have high risk, everybody agrees on that is a very important risk, you don't need to discuss it during the session. You just go to the measures. But those risks that are different in opinion, you want to know the reasons behind it. And in that way, maybe an expert says about a license that is already handled, but the whole group thinks is a problem. By identifying that and having a discussion on it, you get a shared understanding on the top risks. That is what it's all about. And having that top risk, you can then top 10 or top 15, you can then go to the measure step in the two, where you identify the risk owner, the measure owner, etc. on the mitigating measures. In the last step, of course, after you've done this risk assessment where you have assigned the risk and the risk owners, you need to manage them. So from a project manager point of view, if we are talking about a project on the operational risk management view, you need to do something about it. So you come towards the risk management part, the risk monitoring part. And that's the last video I will show you.
Hey, welcome! In this video, we will talk about how to update and manage your risks and measures. This too can be done in RISKID. Awesome, right? Together we have already identified, scored, and discussed the risks. Good job, but we're not quite there yet. It's now time to implement and manage the measures on the risks. Our dashboards provide you a clear overview of the most in there as well. You can directly click on the pie chart to view the measures that are over deadline. Uh-oh, just seems like John might be in trouble. Every risk or action owner can log into his own account to update his risks and measures. It's that simple. So no more excuses from you, John. You even get an alert by email when a deadline is close or when a date has passed. So if everyone updates his risks and measures, the manager will always be able to see the latest information in his dashboard. This way, he can accurately report to his management. For example, how are the financial risks looking? Just click on the pie chart and you'll directly see the selected relevant data. Making some quick changes to your data is just as simple. It's also important to frequently update and discuss the risks with your team. It's all about keeping each other updated and reach out to those who you can help out. This, of course, is done in a risk ID session. Just filter the list on the current risk, and ta-da! A new session is ready to go. Has risk management ever been this easy?
So that's a quick overview on how to manage the risk in our software. As promised, I will show the software itself. Looking at the time, I'll quickly go through it. So this is actually my browser, and I'm logged in as an administrator. If, for example, this is your company, you see on the left your projects within your company, all the list projects, and you start by the overall dashboard, which gives you a dashboard widget, we call this, of all the projects, and each project, it shows you the amount of risk in that project. So generally speaking, the more risk in the project, the more attention it should have. But that's not always true, because if a project is run multiple years, it might have a lot of risk, but are managed. Instead of a new project with several risks or in the red zone, that is something you need to pay your attention to. So a specialization on that amount of risk dashboard, we have critical risk dashboard widget. This shows you per project how many red risk, critical risk are there. So in this example, we have a project A with total of 15 risks, but 13 from those 15, 13 are in the red zone. And also, if you're a big company, you, of course, if you go to reporting and talking to higher management, you don't want to discuss all the projects, just the top 3 projects. So you can set the filter on the dashboard according to your communication partner. And the best thing is also where you can, when you have a discussion, you can just click on a specific project whenever someone wants to know more about it. It zooms in towards that project by clicking on it. In this case, the top site installation project. You see all the risk within the project that you have preferably done with the risk ID session through the videos that I showed you before. And also for the project manager, he has his own project dashboard showing you what I just showed in the video, the most important information, how many red, yellow, and green risks are in the finance part, time part, safety part, the measures, how it's going. Click on the measures free overview. It directly goes to those free overview measures. Going back to the dashboard, you see the categories. So in this case, the categories would be the process steps. So in each process step, you will see how many risks are there. And of course, the last one is the top 10 risks within my project. Again, with the most important information. And if you click on it, you could directly zoom into that specific risk. So this is something really simple in our tool to manage also after you've done the workshop. To get that going. With the alert modes, you still keep the attention of the risk owner and the measure owner. Going back to the presentation, I think my last slide, and I'm done, Boris.
All right.
So, what are the risk ID? To summarize, what are the risk ID USPs? We focus on 2 things. First thing is simple design. We take a lot of effort in making the software very user-friendly. And of course, if you talk to any other vendors, risk management software vendors, they will say their user interface is very intuitive and such. But our risk management software is the only software that is scientifically proven to be user-friendly, because we work with universities to research it and write papers, etc., to identify if our product is indeed very user-friendly. And the next focus point is collaboration. So we say risk registers is nice, but it's more about preventing garbage in, garbage out. So involve all the stakeholders into the process and get the ownership and raise the risk awareness. That's what it's all about when we're talking about operational risk management or risk management in general. It's also very effective if you use RISKID with these kind of setup process steps. And generally, if you look at the research papers with tools like ours, you get at least 50% effectiveness in time aspect as opposed to traditional methods. So in this case, I'm done with my part, and maybe later you can raise some questions and I'll answer them after Boris' part. Boris, I will want to give back the floor to you.
Okay, let's do a recap what we have learned so far. We learned that the risk managers and company leaders should take a fresh look at their operational risk programs. Focus on the essential processes that underlie your business and the inherent risk that they drive. Use 6 steps to take control of operational risk, and they will help you get a clear oversight of your systems, processes, and people to prevent failures that lead to costly financial reputation damage. And I hope that this presentation will help you to assimilate risk management practices into processes, systems, and culture. I hope that this information was helpful, and I believe you learned quite a lot so far. And please share your questions, your views, and case studies on what works and what doesn't in your practice. Do you think you can achieve some success with what you learned? And for those that want to learn more, as I promised, we have a special offer which is unique in the industry and available only for webinar attendees or listeners. This is our online course, Mastering Operational Risk, plus 6 months free license for RISKID. So you can start implementing your theoretical knowledge gained during your study of the course material in the practice, creating actual assessments, analyzing and monitoring your risks. Existing students, we have quite a few existing students on the call. They are welcome just to sign in into their training environment at Global Risk Academy, because they have a lifetime access. And for anyone who would want to join the course, we will have a great offer. The offer is the full course plus 6 months license for RISKID is $199. It's only available during the short period after the webinar. To go to this offer, you might do the following. You might click on the attachment tab that you can see on the bottom of the viewer, of the webinar viewer, and you click on the attachment, or you can go directly to your browser and type www.globalriskacademy.com/p/ORM, and you will get to the web online course page. Don't forget to insert the discount code webinar ORM, which is valid only during 24 hours after the webinar. Okay. What the course contains operational risk management methodology, risk mitigation. We have workshop on developing operational risk framework. Module 4 is measuring and managing operational risks. We discuss models of operational risk, conducting RCSA, emerging challenges. The course material includes workshop and special bonuses available only for students of this course. For example, risk self-assessment exercise, example of a KRIs or key indicators for a process, and we have a risk inventory template, crisis management plan, glossary of ORM terminology, and new management guide for fighting cyber predators. At the end of each module, there is a quiz that will let you know if you understood the concepts presented. By the end of the course, you will have an understanding of the wide range of aspects of operational risk, such as methodology, I already discussed this. It will also help you understanding risk models, legal risk, emerging challenges, operational risk system, and software. And upon successful completion of all quizzes and exercises, you will get a certificate of completion from Global Risk Academy. Who will benefit of this course? The main audience is the course is designed for both aspiring and active risk officers, or VPs, management directors, heads of departments, CFOs, CROs, analysts, operational and risk management staff from financial services, banks, insurance companies, pension funds, consultancy, software vendors. Also, it will be very useful for them who operate in these sectors, and it will also be perfect for interim risk managers and consultants who want to get up to speed with a new or current risk assessment. All right. And just let me walk you through how you can enroll. Just to repeat, you can go by clicking the attachment tab on the webinar viewer platform, or you can go to the browser by clicking on globalriskacademy.com/p/ORM in your browser. Now, when you do this, you will see the following screen. You will see this page. You can go click on Enroll. Then you will see the page where you can choose your options. The most popular option is the number on the top, which includes the RISKID 6 months free RISKID software. After you did this, you clicked on Enroll. You have to fill your name and email address and password to get into the learning system. Then you will have a payment options. Here, don't forget to input your discount coupon code. Where you see the arrow, red arrow, you have to click on this and input the webinar ORM to get 15% off. Right? Now, guarantee 30 days. If for ever reasons you're not happy and don't like the course, you just contact us and we will refund you the full amount. All right. When you did this, you will see the back end of this course with all modules like this, and inside of a module we have this, like for example, the modules can be downloadable or embedded. In contrast with others online courses or institutions where they provide only embedded modules, we actually allow also downloadable modules, so you can download them and study when you are on the traffic or whenever there is no internet connection. So now a very important benefit is we have a comment section, so you actually can communicate both with trainer and students in the platform. All right, so now I finished with this offer, and we go to the questions. We have quite a lot of questions.
Okay. So just to be clear, Boris, when they enroll on one of your risk management online courses, they will get a 6-month RISKID for free, right?
Absolutely, yes. 6 months RISKID for free. Yeah.
All right. So We have some nice questions from the audience. I can read one if that is okay, which is quite nice. One is saying, excellent idea to use wisdom of crowds on enumerated risks. Now, how do we uncover the unenumerated risks, so buried or unrecognized risks? Possible outside perspective. After all, the red team usually beats the Pentagon in war games. So yeah, that's very interesting question. So in RISKID, you have the brainstorm step, and many times we have sessions where they also invite certain experts to think about risk, not just the project team, but also outside people, and also if you have a project where you have clients, of course, and also your subcontractors, you can also ask them to join in with the brainstorm session. You can even hold an external brainstorm and an internal brainstorm if you don't want to share your internal risk with external non-company employees. So in that way, you can get a lot of their knowledge on the subject in terms of risk, and you will then have best both worlds. So you can ask external people to think about it, help use their knowledge, and also keep the internal risk to yourself if you don't want to share them. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. There is another question. To validate risk management, can we actually quantify operational risk factors so that it becomes insurable? Interesting. I know there are some internal quantifiable factors, like you can create scorecards, or you can use scenario analysis, and all of them use specific loss data, or external loss database, or internal loss database, and there are numerous operational risk quantifiable criteria, but most important, they should be also quality criteria, like KRIs and KPIs, and also the risk self-assessment strategies that you put in the place. This is most important aspect of operational risk.
Yeah, and I also think insuring is one of the measures that you can take on a risk. I think you all know, most probably this is the low probability and high impact risk. But that's just one way. I think if I look at my sessions, if you get a group to think about it, we have something like system engineering, or you can do a lot of neat, cheap measures that can already help you mitigate the risk. So insurance is just one of the mitigating measures. That's something I think also very important to know, that insurance is one of the many that you can think of.
Okay, this is answered. Okay.
So I have another one. They're asking, what are the reporting capabilities of RISKID? Yes, that is something very good question, of course, because within the tool, you can do a lot already. So manage the risk, etc., with the dashboards. But we do, of course, export to other files. For example, still we export to Excel and Word. I can maybe, if I get back the screen share, I can actually show you. If you click on a button on a project, it's not visible, but this is the Excel that we automatically generate from the project risk list. So you see here columns like the risk, the cause and effects, the risk owner, and of course the risk score with the weights and stuff, etc., the actions. So we can generate multiple of these Excel lists, and we offer our clients to generate the Excel or Word according to their own template. So it's matched towards the management reporting structure. But this is our standard Excel that generates. You can just delete the columns you don't need, but all the information is just shown here.
All right. Okay, next question. How do you distinguish ARM from project risk management? From my perspective, IRM is kind of on a much broader perspective than project risk management. You actually can embed ERM into project risk management, but ERM includes also the most important is corporate culture and other risks like market risk, operational risk, credit risk, and the project risk is just one part of this plate. Okay.
All right. Shall we do one more, Boris, and then we I think within the hour already?
Yeah. One sec. I have some questions. I have a question. If I join the course, will I get the access to future updates? Yeah, absolutely. When you purchase the course, you will get all the future updates for life. So this course is already prepared, fully comprehensive. But when we join today or in the future, you will get all the future updates. Let me check. Another course. Perhaps for later discussions. I don't understand this question. Do you understand this question?
Yeah, I'll read it. I assert there are no black swans, only previously unrecognized correlations. Example include both Fukushima, AIG. So yeah, even the financial crisis, many people say there are already a lot of indicators that goes towards it if we just ignore it. So that is the nature of black swans, right? That is something totally unexpected, but in the hindsight you can rationalize it. So I think that's my opinion then, what you're saying is true, but that is already the definition of black swans, I think. And of course, if you think of, you want to identify the so-called potential black swans as early as possible. So what I mentioned, and if I relate it back to RISKID, in the brainstorming phase where you can brainstorm anonymously, it helps you create a very free environment for all the stakeholders to say anything they want. So also the silly risks that they are having in their minds. And those are the risks that you session, because those are the creative risks that nobody might have think of. And those are the potential black swans that you can identify. And because it is anonymous, you won't be the nutty professor that you are having if your name is behind every input. So doing it anonymously, I think, will have you a greater chance to identify the black swans.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so that I have a last one question. If I want to have multiple licenses for my team, yeah, how can I get it? All right, just send me email. I will give you in the last slide. There will be my email address, and you can just send me, and I can show you how to do this. Okay, we finished the questions, Q&A questions. This is final recap. We finished the questions. Thank you very much for your active participation. And just final recap, we have special offer plus 6 months license for free license for RISKID. It's 15% of the listing price. Discount code is webinar ORM. All right. So now I would like to thank you again. Thank you so much for attending, and I sincerely appreciate you investing your time and energy into this webinar, and it shows how special you are and how committed you are to achieving your goals. There is very few people willing to do what it takes. Obviously you are one of those if you stayed till the end. Thanks so much for attending, and I look forward to hearing of your success and seeing you again soon. Just one latest slide. If you'd like to contact with Global Risk Community, or me personally, please see here on the slide the contact data, and Calvin will follow up with you by email with his part of the presentation and with his contact information. So those who bought, please stay to the end of the event to see the back end of the course. And if you have some questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Right. Okay, now it's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much again, and see you next time. Bye.